All right. Thank you for coming. I mean, we can start if more people join. It would be great, of course, but I don't want to keep you guys waiting. So, for today, the session will be movement principles, and we're diving deeper into EDS and how we can move to feel better. So this is going to be a little bit more niched and more specific topic, and it goes together with paramotion and what we are trying to do as well. So let's make it an interactive session. It's not going to be very long. I also tried not to make it very dense with information, so that you can feel relaxed and comfortable to ask questions. To You can write in the comments, you can just unmute yourself. We have it's very flexible here, so just feel free to ask or interact at any time. And let's get started. Let's go. All right, so the first thing we need to talk about when we talk about movement is our body anatomy. And when we're thinking about our body, we need to think about it as a whole, but also as different parts. So obviously we have the muscles, which is the most common thing that you hear when you work out. You want big muscles, you want to strengthen your muscles, but you don't hear so much about the rest of the stuff that is included in the workout. So, what are muscles? If essentially muscles are also tissues that contract to create movement. So, the contraction of a muscle creates a movement. And then we have joints, and joints usually is where two bones meet. And these are also, there's not much muscle there. They are connected to the muscles through tendons. And all of this is connective tissue, obviously. So it has collagen in it, and it has all of the we will talk a little bit more in details where the issues lie there when it comes to EDS patients, but now we're going to talk generally about the general population and everybody who works out, not only us with EDS, hypermobility, ADHD, autism. We need to follow this. Everybody needs to follow this, but us even more so, because we have this kind of fundamental issues with those structures as well. And then we have ligaments, which connect bones connect one bone to another. Ligaments is connecting one muscle to the bone. It's a tendon connecting. And you have the joints usually are very mobile, and they're supposed to help us, like with the knee joint. We have the hip joint. You have the shoulder joint, which is the most mobile, because we can really move all across different dimensions with it all the way back. So and once we are establishing those things, then there's something new that research has discovered just recently, and it's not like common knowledge. A lot of people really don't know about it. So if you know about fascia, great, that you are keeping up a little bit more with what's going on. And I will dig a little bit deeper into what fascia is in the next slide. But fascia is actually a connective tissue network. So if you think of your body, is built from cells. Every cell has fascia around it, and then when it's two cells, then there's fascia around them, and then those cells and fascia slowly create an organ, and then the entire organ has fascia around it. And this fascia is connecting like everywhere in the body. So if you can have like a fascial connection between your guts and your feet, for example. So you can have really myofascial connections everywhere in the body. And if you're feeling constricted in one area, then it will impact all the other areas. That's why it's very important for us to consider fascial release, fascial exercises, and to consider fascia when we work out, because if we don't do that, then we are not taking the whole body into perspective, and we're not getting the best results. And when it comes to nerves as well, it's a huge thing when it comes to working out. And a lot of pain, actually, especially for us in EDS, comes like a lot of pain. Is nerve pain is the worst pain. I always say, like, nerve pain is the worst pain, because it's like throbbing pain. It's like electricity, and it like goes from the, like, if you have a nerve pain in your shoulder, it goes from the neck all the way to your like pinky finger. And if it's in your hip, the sciatica nerve can also hit the pain. And this, even people without EDS have a sciatica. It's very common because of the way that we live today. We're always sitting, we're not moving a lot. So sciatica is basically from the lumbar, which is like the low back, and then goes down all the way to the feet sometimes, this kind of pain. So nerves are also a big part of it. Nerves are basically the communicators. They are the ones that transmit signals between the brain and the body. So it's very important for us to also understand the role of nerves and how they can be impacted with our workout regime or movement regime. So I'm just gonna check if you have any questions. No, okay, good. So next, we're gonna dig a bit deeper with fascia. What is it exactly? As you can see in this picture, you see it's even around, like the vessels, around it's around everything, and it's like covering this white kind of sticky structure that is like creating a continuous web of connective tissue surrounding muscles, organs, nerves, and it provides support and separation as well. So and it has sensory awareness as well. It has kind of like it can detect, it can send information up to your brain. That information, if it's constricted, it can be painful, or it can be just telling the brain where you are in space, like where is this organ, where is that. So it also helps with proprioception. And there are different types of fascia. There is superficial fascia that it goes right under the skin, and that's why actually when you just touch yourself and like just squeeze a little bit, you see how it gets a bit red maybe, and then you can, wherever you do that, like you can do it on the forearm for example, and you could see it getting a little bit red, and then you see that there's the blood coming and flowing, and all of that just touching like this, it impacts the fascia immediately. So it's like response to gentle touch. And when you have for example, when you're like doing some exercises, you want to encourage this blood flow around the fascia, and that's in those areas, so that you get more circulation in your body, and you get more less pain and more healing. So and then you have like the deeper layers of fascia that are surrounding muscles and bones, and then you have the visceral fascia as well around organs. Fascia is really everywhere. Long story short, fascia is everywhere, impacting everything, connecting everything. So we really need to take it into account, and it plays a big role in movement and health. It helps with movement, with posture, and even flexibility. And obviously, if we have a restricted fascia, then when we're moving, maybe we're not able to move in the same way, or like the healthy range, and then we're trying to push ourselves, and without targeting the fascia to relax the tissue there and be able to slowly, grow into that range, we might injure ourselves and not recover very quickly as well when we work out, if the fascia is constricted. So there's injury, it plays a role in injury and recovery as well. So it's a huge thing. We need to take it into account. Even if you are healthy, this is something you have to know about and take it into account into your everyday life, movement routine, and beyond. And then if we talk about nerves as well.
Let me check if anybody has a question about fascia first.
Okay, let me see, because I'm checking. Rafael, hey, Rafaela, hey. Yeah. All right, if you guys have questions.
Hi,
How
hi
are you?
everyone.
Hi, welcome. If you guys have any questions and stuff, yeah, just like Rafaela did, just unmute yourself, start talking, because I'm like opening the slides. So if you guys write in the chat, I might miss it. So just like, yeah, interrupt me. This is very casual, very chill, safe space, you guys, safe space.
I have a question.
Okay, Maya has a question.
Yeah, fascia also is important for emotions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we store trauma and stuff, and that also makes it more stiff, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So even when we release the trauma, the fascia, we can also have emotional impact.
Absolutely, yes. So this is a very good point as well. When you have like PTSD, or you have like some sort of trauma, or even emotional stress, what do you do usually? You like kind of tense your body, and when you're tensing your body, and this can be very deep subconscious level, that you don't really recognize that you're doing it, but your body recognizes that you're doing it, and then the fascia gets constricted like that. And then when you, for example, if you put one of the fascia release exercises that you could do is, for example, have a small ball and roll your back around it, the lumbar back around it, and then like especially the lumbar fascia, I would say it holds a lot of trauma, the one with the low back. I think it can hold a lot of trauma for a lot of us. So when we're releasing that area and we do some exercises to stretch the fascia there and stuff like this, even for me myself, like I get this feeling of overwhelmed, sometimes emotional, and even sometimes you can cry and just tears comes out and you don't know why. It's just that there's this connection, the emotional connection there. Maybe something happened there, and it can make that trigger that release of emotion. So if you are doing fascial exercises at some point and you do notice these things, it's very normal. And it's a good sign, because it means you're releasing these kind of emotions that are leaving your body a little bit more restricted. So it's an emotional tissue as well. It carries a lot of emotion. A lot of what happens to us is carried by the fascia, and it's stored. It can happen, like, when you are 5 and you don't remember it, but it's still stored in your fascia. It's still stored in your muscle memory in your body. So it's very important that we think about those things. So Connie is saying, what emotions are stored in fascia? It can be anything. It can be, for example, it could be that, like, I can talk about myself. For example, I had I had a problem with my low back. That's when it started, and it was some trauma that I had in my relationship in that time with someone, and then I was like sick for a long time because I was not feeling good in that relationship. So I didn't admit it. So all of that stress, all of that anxiety was like kind of in the fascia, and then once I started realizing what's going on, I started like working out on the fascia and stuff. I started feeling this release of emotions. It can be anxiety, stress, it can be trauma, something specific happened in that moment, and it can be physical and emotional trauma. Like fascia also responds to physical trauma. Like one time I did this test because the doctors, there's so much medical trauma as well in our body, I have to say. But one time the doctor also he made a procedure for me and took some spinal fluid from my low back, and he was not supposed to do that, and he was like clueless about EDS, clueless about all the muscle, clueless, just clueless, and very new. But he didn't understand my symptoms, and I was like on a very bad flare at that time. And when he took that spinal fluid, he hit a nerve, and then when he hit a nerve doing that, so I started so my body had physical trauma around the low back, and it took me around 3 years to heal that trauma. So because of his malpractice and because of the Rafaela is talking about what is fascia. Okay, let's go back a little bit what fascia is then. So fascia, let me see if I can actually find a video, because this is fascia video. Let's see. So like as you see here, there is this web of connective tissue that is surrounding every cell of the body, every organ, every muscle, every tendon. You see how they look like? It's like this kind of sticky nature of like connective tissue that is everywhere in the body. And it has sensory. It is like it senses. It has emotions stored, and it has also it reacts to your feelings, to your physical activity, and it can get constricted. It can it can lose its fluidity, and then like you can imagine if this is relaxed and expanded, but then if like this kind of tissue gets constricted, then you have it pulling on your muscles and pulling on your tendons, and maybe creating worse posture and worse, you feel even worse emotionally because you feel like constricted. So this is how it looks like in the body. So it's in addition to maybe Rafaela, you weren't here earlier, but we were talking about you have muscle, you have tendons that connect the muscle to the bone, you have ligaments that connect bone to bone, and then you have fascia as well that is everywhere, is around everywhere in the body. And this is how it looks like in the body. It's around the organs, around the vessels, around the muscles, and it's something that you really need to take into account when you're working out, because you can also do fascia release exercises, and you can do and you can harm yourself. It can lead to injury if your fascia is constricted and you don't take that into account. Nice. I'm glad. Then I will add this video next time as well to the presentation. I'm glad I found it.
And
Yeah.
I think sometimes you say that you talk about it like the rice paper.
Yeah. So, do you guys like spring rolls? Because maybe I can make a video like this and put it also on TikTok. If you think of the rice paper that you put the vegetables in, you know how the rice paper, before you need to eat it, you have to go and put some water on it, and then it becomes this liquid, kind of stretchy, and then you can roll the spring rolls with it. So fascia, if it gets constricted, it becomes like the rice paper before you put the water on it. And then imagine rolling the spring roll with that. It will just break everywhere. But if you liquidate it and you put the water on it and it's healthy and it's like stretchy and smooth, then when you roll the paper, it doesn't break, and then you can actually eat with it. So this is like the best example I can give you about what fascia is and how it's in our body. Imagine like if you might feel it, a lot of people feel the fascia constricted around the neck area and right down the shoulders, like right behind the shoulder blades. You might feel like some kind of feeling of being stuck or feeling of being you know stretched. And once you feel that, meta coach, you want to say something?
Or maybe just
No, you muted us. I muted yourself. دبغت كلامك. خليني أنا مش. Can you guys hear me? Okay. I think we got muted by mistake. Coach, if you want to say something, please unmute. Or you just maybe unmuted by mistake.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, yeah, I missed part of the presentation. My Wi-Fi went down for a minute, but you were talking about fascia,
Yeah.
and you just gave the example about the rice paper and everything. So are you saying that hydration
Yeah.
is necessary for
Yeah.
healthy fascia?
Yeah, absolutely. Hydration is it's very important, and to hydrate your fascia, you need to do like fascia release. It's response to like very minimal pressure, and it responds to temperature. You can also put like, that's why sometimes when you have a lot of pain, you can put like a heat pillow around it, and then it relaxes. That's actually the fascia responding to that. And then pressure, and then it's like dynamic stretching is very good for it as well. So it responds to different types of movements, and you can take that into account. Like if you think about like a machine, if you think about a machine, right? And the machine is like, if you don't oil it, if you don't oil the machine, it will becomes very noisy, and it will crack a lot. It will not move very smoothly. So fascia,
Right.
if you don't like liquidate it, hydrate it, take it into account in your workout regime, and like if you don't pay attention to it, it becomes like you didn't add oil to your machine. And the machine is the body in that way, and then it becomes this noisy machine that doesn't work very well, and it's like maybe it even breaks down sometimes, cause injury and stuff like this. So it's very good for us to hydrate it, liquidate it, and like constantly, when you feel this kind of feeling in your body's telling you, like you can feel it. And now I definitely feel like fascial pain is different than muscle pain, is different than joint pain, is different than nerve pain. Then you know exactly what your body's telling you, and you can do something to let make unrestrict your fascia, release your fascia, free the fascia.
Okay. Free the fascia.
It needs to be freed. Okay, any more questions about fascia before I move on to the nerves?
I'm ready.
I'm ready. Okay, let's go. Okay, let's go talk about nerves now. So nerves, you may be, I think nerve pain is very common, so I think a lot of people, especially with age, it can get like worse and worse. So I think a lot of us are like familiar with this. but we can talk a little bit about like nerves and how they, you know, interact with the body. So nerves are basically communicators, you know, they are the ones that are communicating what's going on in our body to our brain, and also communicating from the body like where we are in space. So first of all, we can talk about signal transmission. So the brain sends electrical impulses through the nerves to muscles to move. So the brain goes and tells the muscle, like contract, move, and then we start moving and contract or relax, and all the movement is basically contracting and releasing, contracting and releasing. And what we need is to learn how to contract the right muscles and release the right muscles at the right time, and that's the to work optimally. So this is the first thing that the nerves do. They go from the brain to the muscle through these electrical impulses, and they tell them to contract and they tell them to move. And then these muscles and the fascia there in the body as well, they communicate back. They send feedback back to our brain, telling it about where we are, if we're sitting, telling it if we're standing, telling it if where is the right leg, where is the left leg, where is the pressure. If we have pain, it also communicate that to the brain. And the brain calculates, like the brain hacking all this information, calculating everything, and then trying to keep us coordinated and balanced, so we don't fall, so we don't break. So there's so much going on there with the nerves. And of course, if for example, while you're walking, maybe there's a car and you didn't pay attention, and then you look and there's a car, and then the nerve immediately, you know, reacts to that, and it gives the brain feedback. Oh, there's a car, I didn't notice, give me, like, tell the muscle to contract even faster, or something like this. And then you have this reflux of like immediately going back. So nerves are very important because they're really responsible for all the communication that happens between our body and our brain. And there is a lot of during that information as well, there is pain. Maybe there's pain that is transferred from the nerve to the brain as well during the communication. So actually, when you feel the pain, where you're feeling it, the brain is translating that emotion from the nerve. So when you take a painkiller, sometimes they're calming down this information so that your brain doesn't translate it as pain, but maybe the pain issue is still there, but you're just like kind of hiding it so that the brain doesn't see it. But obviously that can be good for acute situations, but for long-term pain, we cannot do that, because we need to go to the source of the issue. Why are we sending our brain these pain signals? Where is it coming from, and how can we reduce that pain so that the brain doesn't have to tell us, look, there's something wrong here, there's something wrong. So pain is basically information. Let me see. Connie is saying, could you get to a point of pain free with fascia? Yes, part of it, yes. If it's fascia induced, of course, but it's not only fascia. I will talk a little bit more how you can get pain free, because you cannot just target fascia. Fascia is responding also to your muscles. Like if your muscle is weak, if your posture is not well aligned, you're all compressed on top of yourself. I can talk about a little bit about that. Then even if you work on the fascia, you have the muscle weakness, you have the lack of coordination, you have the weak proprioception. So you have to work on it. Fascia is part of the puzzle, but it's not the entire puzzle. Like, not to do fascia at all is not good, but to do only fascia is not enough. So we need to do multiple things, but don't worry, that's all coming. Now I'm just like building up the information so I can use it when I tell you exactly what you need to do. So it's coming very soon. So now let's talk about EDS challenges. Like since most of us are hypermobile, and even if you're not hypermobile, you might have this kind of malalignment, like your posture is not aligned. As you can see here in the middle, it's aligned very beautifully, and then most people are either the one on the left or the one on the right. Very few people can reach this level of healthy alignment. And when we think about why do we not, why do we lose that kind of, maybe when you had it when you were a kid, or maybe you've never had it. And in my case, I've never had it because I'm born with hypermobility, so I never reached the level where my body understood where I am and aligns itself up properly. But why do we get here? What happens? What happens to our body that it can't stand up straight? So this is what happens, especially in the EDS body, and this is not limited to the EDS body. I have to kind of emphasize this. This can happen to everyone, but EDS body feels it at a younger age and at a more intense. It feels more intense, and it's more problematic because we have this kind of tissue issue. It's a connective tissue disorder, so our tissue is not very good. It's not healthy tissue. So we have it worse, we have it faster, and even if we have an injury, we will recover slower. But these things apply to everyone, even the healthy people. So what are the issues that are challenging for us with EDS? We have constricted fascia, like we talked about. It becomes tight and constricted, and then it limits movement and it causes pain. And the second thing is impaired proprioception. I don't know if you guys have heard of proprioception before, but proprioception is basically knowing where your body is in space. For example, if you are clumsy, if you, for example, you're going somewhere and you like hit the table, that's a failure of proprioception. You thought your body translated like my body is able to move and cross the table without bumping into it, but I bumped into it. So there's there's something in the calculations that is wrong, because I don't know exactly where my body begins, where it ends, and my edges. So I may be very clumsy, I get maybe I hit stuff, I maybe drop stuff. If somebody's throwing things to me, I think I'm gonna catch it, but I think my arm is in the right place, but it's not. Like, so it becomes this kind of poor joint awareness. It leads to clumsiness, missteps, and frequent injuries. And proprioception is actually very connected to our fascia. If our fascia is constricted, like if you look at the image, for example, to the left or to the right, what can you imagine the fascia is doing here? The fascia obviously is not liquid and it's compressed. Like if you look at the chest, how it's compressed in this on the left side, it's compressed. You have the fascia here around the upper back is stretched too much, and then you have like the low back has like a lot of weight on it. The belly is pushed forward, so the fascia there and the organs there are being pushed forward, and that can cause digestive issues. That can cause a lot of issues because it's called push belly. And because of all of this, what happens to the low back? We cannot communicate with the right muscles of our glutes are turned off. We cannot talk to our hamstrings, and then maybe the feet are collapsed inwards, and maybe a lot of us have flat feet that are caused because of bad postures. A lot of us are born. We think we're born with flat feet, but actually, if you work out on your feet, you can come back and have that arch again. So when we look at that, the brain tries to translate the information. Like you want to take the shoulder up, and the brain is trying to calculate where your shoulder is, but it's not getting the right data. You can understand that it's not getting the right data because everything is compressed and everything is like in the wrong alignment. So the brain maybe thinks the shoulder is here, like a bit forward, and then your shoulder is actually in an internally rotated state, and your brain analyzes that this is my shoulder in the right place. And while you're internally rotated, you try to make your arm go up. You can imagine you cannot go all the way up. Because why? Because your shoulders are not in the right place, but your brain doesn't know that. So your brain doesn't know that, and then you are in a bad alignment, and you're trying to pull your shoulder up and you cannot reach. You look at people around you, everybody's reaching all the way to the top, and then you force yourself, you push and you force your shoulder to go up. What happens here? You create more tension, you create injury, you might create nerve pain, and all of this because you don't know where your shoulders are supposed to be, and you think you are in the right place. So if we go to the gym and nobody tells you this, they tell you do this exercise, but nobody looks at you how you do it. Nobody tells you how it should feel, what muscles should be working, where your shoulders should be. So you're working from this misalignment. You're adding more tension to your fascia, you're creating more injury, you're creating more pain, and you're thinking you're doing good for your body. And then you go to the gym and you feel worse and you don't know why. And then maybe you stop working out. You say, I don't want to work out. When I work out, I feel more pain. Also, not a very good plan. We need to find the right movement strategy for us. So we need something that helps us with our proprioception first and our fascia, and then we need to start building on top of it the strength and work out from the right place, from the right alignment, and build that strength. And then that will you will immediately feel the difference. Even sometimes when I do exercises, well, the first time and from the right place, I see my muscles start to shake because they haven't been recruited before, and they're like waking up. I call them sleepy muscles, and then they wake up and they're like, whoa. Hello, what's going on? I have been on sabbatical. So there's so much to unpack here, but I don't want to take too much time, because if I'm gonna talk like this on every step, we will not finish today. But yeah, so we understand now we have constricted fascia, impaired proprioception. We don't know where things are supposed to be. And all of this, what will this lead? It will lead to bad posture and collapsed posture. I call a collapsed posture, because what is posture? Posture is the reaction of your body to gravity. So you have to have some resistance to gravity. Your body's resistance to gravity is posture. And when we don't resist gravity with the right muscles, we collapse. The gravity wins. It wins over us and we collapse. Everybody, you could see, like the one that is aligned is winning over gravity. It's not collapsing. It's still aligned. The energy is flowing through from the ears all the way to the feet. Like, you could see that alignment. But in the other ones, you could see that gravity has won, because like things are collapsing. The chest is collapsing, the belly is collapsing. There's no access to the right muscles. So all of this collapsed posture will, and then you're in that posture maybe like 24/7 for many, many years. That will obviously cause a lot of fatigue. It will cause discomfort. You will not be able to breathe. Even if we're going to talk about breathing right now, how are we breathing? If we cannot move, the chest can't move, we have to use our ribs to breathe. They're collapsed. We cannot use our pelvic floor. So we're not breathing properly. When we don't breathe properly, you can also think of what, the amount of things that can go wrong. And all of this, so we have like constricted fascia, impaired proprioception, and then collapsed posture. What will happen to the nerves? Can you imagine the nerves? They're sitting there trying to translate, to send information to the brain and tell the brain what's going on, and the brain is telling it to do something, and it's not able to communicate. And it's compressed. Because of this compression, it's also causing sometimes numbness. Sometimes you can feel numb in your legs or in your fingers of your hands or your toes. You can feel numbness around the shoulders, and that's all nerve pain, and so that's like when you've been doing something for a very long time, nerves will compress in that place. It will cause issues, and even hernias at some point. You need surgery. So it can get really bad with age. And obviously, when you have all of that, how are your tendons? How are your ligaments? They're loose, they're fragile, and that will lead to even more instability and frequent subluxation or dislocation. When you're stretching, especially when you're hypermobile, you wake up from sleeping, and then you just move your arms like this, stretching, and you are already in an internally collapsed way, because we sleep also wrong, since this is our posture where our sleep is also not very good. And then we wake up, and we're from this internally collapsed situation. We're trying to stretch, to wake up, and when we stretch, we might pop our shoulder, pops out of place, because we are hypermobile. It can go outside of the socket, and then the muscles are like, wait, you're not supposed to do that. And then they bring back the shoulder socket, like they bring it back to stay in that place. and that's called dislocation. I'm sorry, that's called subluxation. So dislocation is when you completely dislocate, like it completely pops out of place. But subluxation is like a semi dislocation, is when it's like you're stretching and you're doing something, and then like halfway there your body realizes, oops, I'm not supposed to be doing that, and then it reacts like halfway, and then it's kind of the whole place becomes like stiff, it becomes very very painful. You would need to like rehabilitate that area for a while. It can take like a few days to a few weeks for it to recover. So, and that's called subluxation. And in worst case dislocations, obviously it's very dislocation, you're just like, so it's out of place, the joint is out of place, and that's like really horrible. Luckily, I don't get a lot of dislocations, but I do get sometimes subluxations. And now with my workout regime and stuff, it has become much much less. So there is hope for us, and you can increase this stability. I know now I'm focusing on the challenges, but the solution is coming. Just bear with me. So now we talked about the tendons, and so if the connections between the muscle and the bone is not very strong and it's loose, you can see how the joint will be unstable. For example, our knees are not supposed to move sideways. They're supposed to move only bend and open, bend and open. They're not supposed to move sideways. When the tendons and the ligaments are weak, then they don't hold the knee in place, and the muscles even not active at this point. If you look at these people, so the muscle is not active. What happens to the knee? It starts like moving sideways, and when it's moving sideways, it's like really bad for your cartilage. It's like basically shearing over your cartilage, and there's so much going on there that like it causes pain. It causes with time you might need even knee surgery to like rebuild that structure. So you're basically shearing on that structure, and this movement we're never supposed to go there. So it's very important to also for your workout regime to focus on your tendon and ligaments and try to strengthen them on top of strengthening your muscles. And also we need to activate the right muscles, not only any muscle. Like I talked about before, if you're moving from this bad place, and what muscle is active in that case? It's all the wrong muscles. Maybe you're doing push-up, but you're doing push-up, imagine doing push-up from this left or right side. You're not activating the chest. No way you're activating the chest. And you're not activating anything that you're supposed to be activating. The core is not engaging, the glutes not engaging. So what are you doing? You're probably hanging out in your joints. You're overstretching the wrong muscles, you're overworking the wrong muscles, and it's just not gonna get you the results that you're hoping for. So maybe we shouldn't do push-ups then in that moment. We should build up a good structure and build up towards a good aligned push-up, and then we can get the right results. And all of this, what does it lead to at the end of the day? Balance issues. Because of all of this, we will have unsteady movement. We will maybe have more risk at falling, more risk at tripping, more risk at like, I know a lot of people who have this condition as well. They get like this sprains in the ankle when they're walking. They get knee sprains a lot. Ankle sprains, and that's not fun. If you've had an ankle sprain before, not fun. So obviously we need to think about all of this before we move forward and work out and introduce movement into our life. Now we come to the solution. So how can we target these challenges when we're working out? First of all, we need to work out slow and steady. A lot of, me including, people with EDS, we move really fast. We try to move things fast and push and move fast and strain, and like we're all, because we don't have the proprioception, we don't have the understanding of movement, so it becomes like really kind of, I just have to get it over with, just try to push myself, do it whatever how it's done, and then finish it. We need to go against that, which is really hard. And it's very hard for a lot of people, me including. Moving slow, I was like, what do you mean move slow? I can do 10 push-ups. I'm doing now 2. But like, yeah, I'm doing 2 correctly. 10 were wrong. So if you do 2 correctly, you are building towards the right. Maybe one day you will do 10 correctly, 20 correctly. But if you are doing 10 wrong, you will never do 1 correctly. You're not building towards anything. And that was really hard to get into that understanding that I need to take it slow. I need to also educate myself, like this exercise, what's the purpose of this exercise? What muscles should be moving? How is my body moving? How am I breathing? And where is my breath? What's going on with my joints, with my tendons, with my fascia? Like, how does it feel? And do it slow and steady. And then we need to gradually increase, because we need to think of our tissue tolerance. Like, we cannot, from the first time, we've never worked out in our lives, and then immediately go to like hit training, or like go immediately to like 5 kilograms, or do like 20 push-ups and like pull-ups, and I don't know what. I see people go to CrossFit right away, and I'm like, how are you? Like, yesterday you didn't move nothing, and then next day you think you're gonna go to CrossFit and do all the stuff that CrossFit people is doing, and you're gonna feel good. Like, how your tissue is not like this. It's not overnight you can change everything. It has to be gradual, and you have to be gentle to your tissue, because you need to build that strength slowly. Otherwise, you know what your tissue will do? It will just gain more stress, more tension, and it will even cause more injury and more harm. So you think you go into CrossFit, or you're going to this HIIT training, or you're doing this really complicated stuff, and you're feeling worse. That's like the worst thing, because it's so hard for us to mentally encourage ourselves to move and to bring that strength to finish the workout, and then we feel worse than we felt before. And then we're causing even more harm to our body. So that's really sad. When I see this, I feel so sad for myself in the past and for people as well who are doing this to their body. I was talking to one girl one time, and she was telling me, I go to this HIIT training, and she has the fibromyalgia, and then she goes to this HIIT training, and she said, after the training, I feel like I got hit by a bus. And I'm like, isn't this a clue that you shouldn't do this type of training? If you feel like you're getting hit by a bus, that's not great. It's not something you would want a workout session to give you. You want a workout session to make you feel like you're driving a bus. You are in control. You are, you know what's going on. So it's very important to also to tap into how you feel. If the workout feels bad after you've done it, then this is not the right workout for you. Maybe not for now, at least. You need to maybe build up towards it, or maybe do something else.
And I think I just have 2 points to add here.
Yeah.
I think there's a misconception about no pain, no gain.
Yes.
That we need to throw in the garbage, this concept, which is very harmful, because we think the more we push ourselves, the more we have pain, and then we would gain more muscles, or like that's the way to do it. And this is a very toxic mentality, actually, to approach your body and to approach movement. And the second thing I think we need to keep in mind, that this intensive exercise lead to mast cell activation flare, because exercise, this like HIIT training and stuff, increase the histamine in our body. And so that's why when you do like immediately very tense exercise, when you don't exercise very well, then your body is reacting harshly. You have histamine flare, and you have mast cell activation flare, and you might feel like you need 1 week to recover, because your whole body got shocked and got out of balance. So that's why slow, gradual, with mind-body awareness. And what we need, we don't really need to like just to go and do very harsh things. What we need to build a gentle relationship between our body, our mind, our muscles, and all the part of it. Being aware of it and gentle. And I remember also that Ines talked about the slow movement. I went to this anti-stress retreat once, and like meditation and like mindfulness. And from there they were like, okay, now we were gonna practice slow walking. We're going to be mindful walking, slow walking. And I was, as Ines said before, I didn't pay attention that when I walk, I was just only throwing myself, and I walk very fast, even though I walk very wrong. And the first time I tried to walk very slowly, actually it was very, very hard to keep my balance. So I will recommend for you just to try to walk very very slowly and like from one feet to the next very slowly and see how your body move and how balanced you are. But it was very hard for me to understand what's wrong, and how to what's like and how to go forward with that, because like you cannot be mindful of your body if you don't build the relationship with it first. So we need first to be aware of our muscles. What are the muscles that are responsible? Understand the movement, then we can be mindful of it. But we cannot be mindful of something we're not aware of or is not built in our system. So that's why I think for us, like mindfulness and all this stuff, this is really very advanced things that once we build all the things that Ines talking about, then we might be able to do it. But start with like immediately what people recommend in general, do mindfulness. Like, what do you mean by mindfulness? I can't do it if I don't build all the other things that Ines is talking about.
Exactly, yeah, Linda's talking very difficult in the beginning, mindful walking. The thing is, it's not only that it's difficult in the beginning. I agree with you. Just moving slow in general for us is going to be very difficult because you have to be aware. Usually these things are subconscious. Your subconscious takes over. You do what you need to do to get somewhere, and that's it. But when we're walking mindfully, obviously then you're bringing that to your awareness. You're watching how you're moving. But the problem is with these kind of mindful retreats that now I'm very like skeptical of, is that they don't teach you how your feet are supposed to move. They don't teach you how you need to. They don't even train, like even in the program that I also teach, is like you need to have like feet exercises, and you need to have understanding of how it's a gait pattern. It's called gait pattern, GAIT. So your gait pattern, how basically you have your heel. Your heel is on the side of the feet almost, so you need to go to the side and put all the weight on the heel, and then go to the side of the foot, and then eventually end with the palm of the foot, and with the pushing through the big toe, under the big toe. So, and then when you push like that, then the other one will bounce. So you have to really understand the biomechanics of the body. Unfortunately, we cannot skip it. I tried to skip it, I tried to be like, I don't need to know this, I will just do it, but no, it's not gonna work if you don't really consciously understand like how your body should work as a machine. Imagine you want to learn how to drive, and you just drive slow, but nobody tells you have to put how to use the gear, how to use the wheel, what are the rules for driving. Okay, I can drive slow, but I don't know anything. So I need to know the rules. I need to know like how to use this machine, and then I can use it slowly and mindfully. Sure.
Yeah, and I think also we need to like first to work on our posture and our balance. If our posture and balance are not in the right place, how would you work? You be able to walk properly?
Yeah, exactly.
And slowly.
Exactly. Look at these people, like this one on the side. Yeah, they can walk mindfully as many times as they want. Are they gonna get the right benefit? Do you think in your brain, like right now, looking at this posture and thinking, oh, if they walk mindfully, they will be fine? It's not possible. If you don't work on aligning yourself to become like that first, and then try to mindfully walk and understand how you're supposed to walk, you're not gonna get the benefit. Even if no matter how mindful you are, it's not gonna happen. So mindfulness is great, but it's built on education and knowledge and awareness. Mindfulness without any of that is pointless, in my opinion.
You need to have the basics and to build for it.
Exactly. So be wary of these people selling mindfulness stuff. It can be nice, but it also can be very limited, and sometimes it doesn't give you. Maybe it's a placebo effect. You think you're improving, but are you really? If you're still in that posture, if you're still moving wrong, if you're still walking wrong, is that really improving anything?
And also when you need to do the mindfulness, they tell you feel your toes or feel that muscles. But if you don't have the access to it, you don't have the awareness of it, your body trick you. You imagine your toe and you imagine the muscle instead of sending the signal to that right muscles. So there's lots of misconception about that. That's why you really need to first of all be mindful of your body. It means you need to activate those signals to your muscles, and you need to really feel your muscles instead of imagining feeling those muscles.
Absolutely. And that's what I mean. It's actually basically we need to think about movement as rehabilitation, and we all need rehab. It's not that just because we have EDS or hypermobility or anything. Let's think about us as human species for a moment. Let's zoom out. Think about the last 200 years. Have we been sitting on a desk clicking on some buttons? No. We have been hunting, we have been gathering, we have been very active. And our body is designed for that type of life. Our body is designed for us to be moving constantly and resting very little and not sitting. We're not supposed to be sitting 8 hours a day. I can tell you that for sure. We're not even supposed to sit 3 hours, So, and we're supposed to be always outdoors. We're supposed to be always active, always in nature, using our body, using our muscles, using our strength. We're also not supposed to be only standing. We also crawl. We used to crawl more. We used to do a lot more body weight kind of stuff. We used to carry a lot more weight. We used to, so you can think our body is designed for that type of environment, and the environment changed. So our body evolves very slowly. It's not gonna like, okay, all these years of evolution in the trash and now this is our new techniques. It's not gonna happen like this. Till our body adapts to this new environment, it will be, I don't know how many years. So it will be many, many years, maybe not in our lifetime, not in our children's lifetime, not in their other lifetime. So it will take a long time for evolution to adapt to the changing of environment. And when you think about it like that, you think that like, okay, then my body is now adjusting to an environment that is not supposed to adjust to. So it's adjusting wrong. When we're sitting all the time, your body will adjust to sitting all the time. So that's not great, because when you're sitting in that posture, you're not in the right alignment. And then you go, for example, when you're sitting all the time, your hips, there's something called hip flexors, they are bent and shortened. So when you sitting a lot, they don't have time to become, extend and to become straight. So when you stand up, they still become shortened. They don't straighten. So when they're still in the shortened position, they pull on your hip, they pull on your lower back. And the fascia there is constricted. So you can't walk properly, you can't do anything properly. So we have to kind of counterbalance, we have to bring balance back into our life. So we need to move in a way that thinks of this environment, thinks of the way that we do every day, and how we can introduce movements into our life that counterbalance that, so we can bring a healthy alignment into our life. And it becomes something more of a, we're thinking about our posture, we're thinking about our alignment, we're thinking about our muscles, and all of this will reduce injury and will reduce pain. For example, if I stretch my hip flexor, and if I strengthen it, and if I do exercises where it's actually in a lengthened position, I will counterbalance all this sitting, and then slowly it will improve, and I will have less stiffness and easier access to the right muscles. So all of this applies to everyone, even if you don't have EDS, applies to everyone. And on top of it, if we're gonna think about us hypermobile individuals, mast cell, ADHD, autism, all the collection, we have one extra thing we need to think about, and it is the autonomic nervous system. We have an autonomic nervous system dysfunction. What does that mean? I think I've talked about this before many times, and I told you this is why actually we are called paramotion. It comes from a parasympathetic nervous system. But I'll tell you again, because this is very important. We have two different types of autonomic nervous system. We have the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. People with EDS, hypermobility, ADHD, autism, and MCAS, POTS, we are stuck in the sympathetic nervous system. We are stuck in a fight and flight response. What does that mean? It means that we have more muscle tension, and we also access more shallow muscles. So, for example, when you're running from a bear, that's when your sympathetic nervous system is naturally supposed to be on. And usually when you're doing that, your body is looking for whatever is next to it. The shallow muscles take less energy to move the body. But the deeper muscles, like the deep abdominals, the deep, hamstrings, those deep muscles, muscles are also layered. They take more energy. And when you are in the sympathetic nervous system, when you are in fight or flight, your body wants to conserve energy. We don't have abundance of energy. In that moment, you think you are escaping a bear. You don't have time to, you don't know how long you will be running. You don't want to run out of energy, so you want to conserve that energy. What happens? We are activating mostly our shallow muscles, and we don't have access to our deep muscles. And that will obviously lead to chronic instability. So we will have weak ligaments, tendons, and because your body is forced to rely on the superficial muscles to support us instead of deep stabilizing muscles that are supposed to stabilize us. So those muscles that are supposed to be working to stabilize us are, offline, and the ones that are online, they're overworked, over fatigued, and overstretched. So you can imagine how problematic can this be for a person. So the body will have to compensate, and then you will create more fatigue, more pain, worse posture, and it will also be telling you all the time that something is wrong. So whenever you go out and you need to work out, if this issue is not addressed, you will not be able to activate the right muscles. You need first to learn how to turn on your parasympathetic nervous system. So you need to turn off the sympathetic nervous system. Tell the body, there is no bear. I am safe. I am in a safe place. Reduce the stress as much as possible. Feel safe in your body. You need to start to introduce, this type of parasympathetic nervous system where you are breathing, three-dimensionally, you're breathing deeply, and you're having access to these deep muscles. Once you have access to them, then you can strengthen them, obviously. But if you don't have access to them, you're not going to be able to do that. And that's it's a very huge missing piece of the puzzle for a lot of people, like who have these conditions. And it should be like number one when it's taking into account when it comes to workout. Because the parasympathetic nervous system, this is where you rest, this is where you digest. So the GI issues comes here as well. This is where you have like also decreased heart rate and blood pressure, and this is where you heal and repair the tissue. This is where you liquidate, you add the oil to that machine. So we need a balance. It's not like we need to turn off the sympathetic nervous system forever, but we need to take a break. We need to be able to alternate between these two. If I have a tight deadline and I have 2 hours and I have a presentation, it's fine. Let it be sympathetic for these 2 hours, but it can't be a lifetime. It has to be that you're mostly in the parasympathetic nervous system, and sometimes occasionally on emergency you jump into that, but you also need to learn how to jump back. And that's how we created ParaMotion movement principles that take all of this into account. So this is whenever I give a class, or whenever you sign up to any program that is brought by me and ParaMotion and our team, it will take all of that into account already, so you don't have to think about it. It's going to be safe. It's going to be first working into different steps. So the first step, it would be parasympathetic activation, where hence the name ParaMotion. And then we learn how to turn off the fight and flight and activate these deep stabilizers, and then strengthen them with time. And then through that we will also be able to create more awareness. And I know a lot of you already know about the brain plasticity. We're going to use that to our advantage. If we didn't have brain plasticity, I will tell you, the first 7 years of your life, your body learned how to move, how to walk, how to breathe. You cannot do anything. Live with it. But because we have the ability to rewrite our programming in our brain, and a lot of movement, a lot of patterns in movement is like a map, like a GPS. Your brain follows the route of least resistance, So we need to use this to our advantage, our brain plasticity, our brain mapping, and be able to introduce variety of movement that can start to establish better, healthier patterns where my shoulders are actually in the right place. My head is on top of my spine, my ribs are on top of my pelvis, my hips, on top of my knees on top of ankles. And we need to also, when we're moving, our gait pattern has to improve. When we're breathing, when we're sitting, we have to improve the way we sit. So it's very functional. So it's not something like, okay, I teach you how to do something and then you go to your real life and then you forget about it. It's something that you have to feel in your real life when you're cooking, when you're cleaning, when like things are changing, you're moving in a way that is safer and healthier. So once we have more proprioception and we activated the parasympathetic nervous system, then here we can build strength and stability. We can carry weight, we can use our body weight, we can crawl, we can do core exercises, we can do activities that really like focus on increasing strength, increasing in our muscles, and increasing stability around our joints. And once we have established good alignment, good awareness, and we are moving from the safe place, parasympathetic place, then we can introduce bigger patterns, because in the beginning we're introducing, okay, here are my shoulders, here are my knees, here are my ankles, here are my hamstrings. We're introducing the body slowly, segmentally, but then in real life, we're not moving, segmentally, we're moving as a whole. And there is no true separation. We do separation for the sake of like working out around a certain joint that is causing problems or to improve our alignment, etc. But when we go back to real life, we have to we have to integrate all of that we are learning. So slowly you build up towards, I call it a body flow, where you are moving into bigger patterns, more complex patterns, movements, and then here you start to challenge your balance. Here you start to challenge those things that the deep stabilizing muscles, because you have access to them. If you don't have access to them immediately, imagine you go work on your balance, it's not going to happen. You're not going to be able to do that. So in this phase, you start to feel like your body works together as a whole rather segmented, and you're allowed to flow and to breathe through that movement as well. So you feel less tired, less pain, and you must feel better after a workout. If you don't feel better after a workout, and after a workout regime for 2-3 months you feel you're injured, you're worse off than when you started, you have to take a step back and be like, this is not for me. I need to find something that does make me feel better. And that's why we say here at ParaMotion, we say education and movement therapy, because you don't only move, you also have to educate yourself. And we say also less pain, more gain. We don't say more pain, more gain, because that's a toxic mentality that can really make us, it can make us more injured, more in pain, and it can really be detrimental for our health. So we need to have a healthy way that we talk to ourselves. Less pain, more gain. And you can talk, if you go on the website paramotion.org, you can hear exactly about my story. I think I've already mentioned it before. And you can also see our principles here immediately on the website, so that you understand this is what we follow. You can even go to our YouTube channel and try one of our exercise sessions, and you can also join our waiting list. So because we're gonna do a program, healthy safe program for everyone, that you can subscribe, and then you have access to all the classes and everything, all the courses, all this educational material will be there as well. So if you'd like to be there, if you want to get in touch with me, you can find me here in the metaverse, and you can also find me on on X or any of the other, on Instagram and everywhere. So that was it. I know it was a lot of information. I really didn't want to overwhelm you guys, but it's just so much, and this is only the tip of the iceberg. Can you imagine if we're gonna go through every joint, every muscle? It's like endless. So I do want to hear what you guys think, if you have any questions, and then we can do like a quick exercise session.
Well, one of the things that's clear to me is the mind body connection is real, because as you're talking about, the the alignment and the different things that happen, knowing where your body is in motion, that really puts in perspective, uh, you know, the mindset of knowing our body and just being able to sense those things. And what I hear you saying is that that's something that you have to maintain constant vigilance on because of your condition. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, everybody has to do it because we're
Mm-hmm.
not living in the environment that we're supposed to live in. We're not. Are you going hunting and
Right.
gathering? No. Who is now going hunting and gathering? Nobody.
To
So if you're
the
not going
refrigerator.
hunting, if you're not going hunting and gathering, you need to do this. Otherwise, if you're hunting and gathering, you're fine, you know. So,
Yeah.
and for us with this condition, even more so because the connective tissue is not healthy in itself. If you have connective tissue disorder, you obviously have even worse of these issues. So our issue is that we have more pain and higher risk of injury and slower at healing. But all of these principles they apply to any human who is not hunting and gathering.
Yeah.
And I just
Now,
wanted
do
to
you
add,
and your sister have? Go ahead.
sorry, yeah, I just want to add like posture. When you said that we need to be aware of our posture, is not to force ourselves into the right alignment.
Mm-hmm.
We shouldn't force ourselves to anything, but through our the exercises and how being aware of activating the right muscles with time the right muscle will be activated and we will be standing more properly. So we don't want to force ourselves because that would increase the
It's
restriction and we
correct.
will cause pain.
Yeah. Mm.
So we don't want to force anything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm.
Definitely. Now, do you all experience similar situations at the same time, or is it, one of you may experience one aspect at one time and vice versa, or is it kind of synchronized more or less as a word? Do you all experience the same thing at the same time?
No, it's different.
And even
Okay.
our bodies, we have like different problems. Like for
Yeah.
me, my main problem is my neck and my right shoulder and my right hip. And for Ines, I think it's your left shoulder.
Yeah.
So it depends how our body adopted. So we have the same problem, but the adaptation is different, right?
Yeah.
From one person to another.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
especially well, like for example, when you grow up, like what kind of activities do you do? What kind of things do you do? They really leave an imprint on you. Even when you're a teenager and stuff. Like for me, I've always not been like the girly girl. I never wear like heels. I never wear like very very minimum. Only if I really have to or I get fired or something, then I have to do it. For that time. But I always wear flat, shoes, and I like to wear also wide shoes because I didn't like the feeling of my feet getting constricted. And this was just being me, being intuitive with how I feel. And then my feet, for
Uh-huh.
example, developed very differently because the people who wear high heels, like my sister, she had to wear it more and she was wearing more like these pointy shoes. So her feet adapted and become like she has more bunion issues than I have, where like your feet is kind of going in a direction, and the bone goes like, so you have like a like feet dysfunction in that way that I didn't have. So I had to work on my feet
Okay.
in a different way, and now both of us like we wear barefoot shoes. They're called barefoot shoes, and now more than ever, I'm convinced that like anybody who wears heels, they have to take the risk that they are really damaging their body. And if you're standing with heels like 8 hours a day, like it's not great. At least if you really have to do it, take with you an extra shoe and try to take a break every now and then because and also even men, they wear a lot of men. I see them wearing these shoes that are very pointy and they
And
don't
Yeah.
leave
squeeze the toes.
and squeezing the toes like that is not good for us because our feet are supposed to look like our hands, which sounds weird, but look at like how we used to be before. We used to be on our all fours much more. We used to crawl much more. We used to use weights on our shoulder joints much more than now. So our hands were very strong, and the connection, to the shoulders was almost like the hips. Shoulders are almost like the hips, and the feet are like the hands are like the feet of the shoulders. So it's so the feet are supposed to be able to expand. Like your fingers, your toes, they're supposed to expand. They're supposed to be wide. You're supposed to feel like this connection with the ground. Like if you don't feel this connection with the ground when you're moving, because you have heels, or like even men have small heels, but still the small heel is not great, you know. And this pointy, so that your feet loses points of contact with the ground, and that will translate all the way up to your neck. So that will
Mm.
cause a lot of issues. So shoes is very important thing, and a lot of
Feet
people.
exercise are very important. And as Ines mentioned, I had bunions before, but thanks to her and the exercise, that what she taught me about the anatomy of the foot, and like and the certain exercise to activate the right muscles, and build strength in my feet. Now I don't have pain, and I'm way more stable. But yeah, so we shouldn't really we should be really aware of our shoes and their impact on us, and we shouldn't like wear anything that feel unnatural.
Exactly.
Yeah, especially
Exactly.
that our feet, our contact with the with the
ground.
ground, and all our balance is based on this information from our feet, right? So it will really impact all the body.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the upper body, right? Like a lot of people with or without this condition, because of the way that we work office jobs, a lot of us, even the metaverse, a lot of us in Web3 are like chronically online, and we have a lot of pain in our shoulders, maybe neck, and we don't breathe properly because the chest is collapsed. So all of that is also very important, not to lose the range of motion in our shoulder, to be able to regain that movement in the shoulder blades. It's called the scapula. That area, the fascia there, can be really get constricted really badly, and to also be able to move the neck in the all the ranges, and even the eyes. You know, when you're only looking on the screen, you know, the eyes are only moving like this, and the eyes are very important in yoga. They say drishti, like the you focus on your drishti, like because where you look, your body, your muscles, everything is gonna react to it. So it's gonna be like that.